Morning, please be seated. Before we commence, there is a statement which I will read in relation to the issue of separate hearings. In order to comply with the reporting schedule, the Royal Commission proposes from time to time to conduct simultaneous hearings, and some examinations will take place before a single commissioner. This process is provided for in Section 7, Subsection 1 of the Royal Commissions Act 1968. The Commissioner or Commissioners who have not been present for the examination of a witness will, as soon as practicable after the conclusion of the examination, consider the audio and visual recording and or the written transcript of the examination. If any Commissioner or Commissioners have questions arising from the consideration of the materials or arising from the examination of the witness generally, first, those questions will be delivered in writing to the legal representatives of the witness or to the witness if unrepresented. And secondly, the witness will be required within the time specified in the notice to provide written answers to the questions. The Commissioners may recall the witness for further oral examination, but will only do so where, having considered the written answers, they have formed the view that it is the only practicable way of resolving the issues raised. Accordingly, a witness will not be excused from further attendance and released from the effect of the witness statement at the conclusion of oral evidence. Rather, the Commission will provide written notice releasing the witness, A, if the Commissioners decide it is not necessary to request them to answer written questions, or B, the Commissioners are satisfied that the process of answering written questions has been completed. Unless an order to the contrary is made, written answers provided in accordance with item 3 will be made public. This explanation may be turned into a practice direction. It may then have some minor changes made to it, but that is in essence the approach that the Commission is taking to these separate hearings. Now, before we commence, can I just take appearances, because I think we might have some people appearing today who've not previously appeared before the Commission as counsel. Mr. Sharp, you're appearing to assist the Commission.
May it please the Commissioner.
Mr. Evans.
For the GWC and Ms. Fiorentino. Right. Commissioner.
Thank you. And then in the back row, starting from the left, counsel who may be speaking today. Ms. Seawood, you have appeared. Thank you. Mr. Malone.
For Mr. Connolly.
Thank you. And Mr. Garris.
Garris, Commissioner, with Mr. Russell, yes, for the Crown entities.
Thank you. Yes, and Mr. Evans, I believe it is your witness.
It is, Commissioner, thank you. Ms. Fiorentino, if you could just step forward, thank you.
Ms. Fiorentino, do you choose to take the oath or the affirmation?
I can take the oath, yes.
Then please follow the directions of Ms. Pollock. First of all, can you state your full name?
I, Carmelina Fiorentino, swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give to this Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Please take a seat. And Mr. Evans, can you bear with me, please? Last week I had the sound turned down on my laptop, but it seems that it's no longer on mute, and I'll just change that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms Fiorentino, you've been summoned to appear before the Commission today.
Yes, I have.
Thank you. And you have prepared a witness statement at the invitation of the Commission as your evidence in chief in these proceedings.
Yes, I have.
I believe you have a copy of that.
Yes, I do.
And apart from one typographical error, which I think is in paragraph 11.4, it's undoubtedly the drafters felt the reference to the Casino Control Act 1954 should be the Casino Control Act 1980. You've read the contents of your statement and you are satisfied that they are true and correct according to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I am.
I tender Ms Fiorentino's statement, Commissioner.
Ms Fiorentino's statement, which is GWC.003.003.006 will be an exhibit. And does that then make the documents referred to in it exhibits also?
I don't know whether we've been following that
I know,
practice.
it just all of a sudden occurred to me that perhaps we should have.
They've certainly been uploaded as a bundle, as I understand it, into the online hearing book. And it is probably appropriate, subject to a question of redaction, which is floating around in relation to the content of some of those statements, whether it's been attended to, that I don't think there's any difficulty with them being exhibits.
Because the statement then is sort of, the value of it is reduced if the documents referred to it. And
That's right, although there may be some duplication because you'll find witnesses are frequently referring to the same documents, particularly in relation to minutes. That's Mr Sharp has a solution to this problem.
I understand the practice to date has been that the witness statement is tendered, but not the attachments or exhibits to it. That's my present understanding of the practice that's been followed to date.
well, perhaps we need to look at that, because it does seem to me where a witness then refers to something occurring and this substantiates that by reference to a document, the witnesses themselves would be perhaps assuming that the Commission will have regard to the document. So we'll just leave that under advisement for the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, subject to that, Your Honour, Ms Fiorentino's statement is tendered.
Thank you. Yes, Mr Sharp.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. Ms Fiorentino, can I confirm that you're currently a member of the Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia?
Yes, I am.
And you were appointed to the GWC on the 1st of August 2018 for a 2-year term?
Yes, I was.
And then you were appointed for a further 2-year term from the 1st of August 2020?
Yes.
I'd just like to ask you some questions about how you came to be approached to join the board. Are you able to advise the Commission how it was that you came to be approached to join the board? Perhaps I should be a bit more specific. Did you register your interest in joining Western Australian government boards?
Yes, I did. On the Onboard WA website, I registered my CV and my interest in joining a state government board, correct.
And when were you first approached to join the GWC?
During 2018, approximately, I think it was June or early July 2018, I received a phone call from a staff member in Minister Papalia's office asking if I was interested in a position as Commissioner on the GWC. I expressed my interest in it. And the appointment proceeded from there.
And during that phone call, what was explained to you about the role that you'd be performing as a member of the GWC? Or was there an explanation about what the role involved?
No, not during that phone call, no.
And why did you decide to accept the invitation to become a member of the GWC?
There were a couple of reasons. I had experience in the gaming sector, having worked in Lottery West as finance manager for a number of years. I was interested in expanding my directorship portfolio. And it was also a sector that aligned with my values to be able to regulate, to have some input into regulating gaming and gambling within WA.
And what did you consider that you would bring to the role of being a GWC member?
So I had a number of years past experience in directorship positions with not-for-profit organisations. So I had governance experience. I had a number of years accounting and finance experience, and I felt having completed MBA studies in 2015 that I could bring all of that experience and knowledge to the GWC board as commissioner and make a positive impact.
Did you have specific experience at that time relating to regulation and oversight of casinos or casino gaming?
No.
And as regards your reappointment from the 1st of August 2021, can you explain to the Commission how that process for reappointment works? And that did you make an application for reappointment, or was the reappointment process managed in effect automatically?
So I knew my 2-year term was expiring on the 1st of August 2020. I made an email inquiry with Mr. Ord, Duncan Ord, that I was interested in being reappointed. I recall being advised to let Minister Papalia's office know of that. So I made an email expression of interest, again attaching my CV, requesting reappointment. And prior to 1st of August 2020, I received a letter from Minister Papalia's office advising me that I'd been reappointed for another 2-year term.
If I can then go back to the initial approach from the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries. I'm sorry, you said you were approached initially by the Minister's office.
Correct.
And then I understand that you had some communication with Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries subsequent to that. Is that correct?
The induction meeting was with staff from the department.
Can I call up gwc.0003.003.002? And are you able to confirm that this is a copy of an email dated the 31st of July 2018 from Kelly Pemberton, Regulatory Officer at the Department?
Yes.
And that confirms a date, time and location for your induction meeting?
Yes, it did.
Could we just focus on the substance of it? It's very blurry where I am.
Yes, well, I'll just ask, can we pop out the sentence that starts the Gaming and Wagering Commission? So in that email, you were advised that the Gaming and Wagering Commission meets on the 4th Tuesday of each month.
Yes.
And then the email goes on to provide links to various web pages and legislation relevant to the work of the GWC.
Yes.
And it attached your formal appointment letter.
The formal appointment letter I received directly from Minister Papalia's office. This also confirmed my appointment.
I see.
Yes.
Commissioner, we did raise the issue earlier about documents being tendered. I was proposing to tender various documents as we went through, which will address some of the documents that are being attached. So at this point, I propose to tender GWC.003.003.002.
The document bearing that number will be an exhibit.
Can we then call up GWC.0003.003.004? Now, is this letter is your formal appointment letter that you're referring to, or is this different from that letter?
So my recollection is I received a letter from Minister Papalia's office, and I also received this letter from the department, correct?
So this is a letter dated the 31st of July 2018 from Kelly Pemberton of the department to you confirming your appointment, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
And can you please pop out the paragraph commencing as a member of the commission? So the letter states, as a member of the commission, you're entitled to an annual meeting fee of $16,600, which is paid in fortnightly instalments. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so your fee for your role as a GWC member was set by the department or by the minister. It was not a matter of negotiation. It was set. Is that correct?
It was a set fee.
Set fee.
Correct.
And is that the total remuneration that you receive for being on the GWC?
Correct.
And I know it's described as an annual meeting fee. Do you agree that that's how it's described?
It is an annual meeting fee. The process for payment was on a fortnightly basis after deducting PAYG tax.
And did you understand from this reference to this being an annual meeting fee, and when read with the reference in the previous email to the GWC meeting on the 4th Tuesday of each month, did that lead you to form a view about the extent of your commitments to the GWC, the extent of the time commitments that would be required?
Can you clarify what you mean?
Yes. Did you? So perhaps I should put it much more generally than that. Based on this initial correspondence, what did you form any expectation about the time commitment that would be required of you as a GWC member?
No, there was no clarity at that point about my time commitment. However, having been a director in the past, I knew it involves clearly attending the meetings, but the preparation leading up to the meetings and ongoing reading around that.
Commissioner, I attend GWC.003.003.004.
The letter from the department to Miss Fiorentini bearing that number will be an exhibit.
Can we now call up GWC.003.003.006, which is Ms. Fiorentini's witness statement, and go to page 5 and pop out paragraph 13. So this is paragraph 13 refers to your induction meeting with Ms. Pemberton and Mr. Connolly, the department's chief casino officer.
Yes.
Just noting your reference there to the department's chief casino officer, is it your understanding that the chief casino officer position is an appointment made by the department, or is it an appointment that's made by the GWC itself?
Do you mean at that time?
At that time.
I did not know who appointed the chief casino officer at that time during the meeting.
And at the present day, what is your view about what is your understanding about who appoints the chief casino officer?
Now I understand the the Chief Casino Officer is an employee of the department.
And the decision about who the Chief Casino Officer should be is made by the department or made by the GWC?
So can you rephrase that?
Who
makes-
decides who the Chief Casino Officer will be? Who appoints the Chief Casino Officer? Is it the department who is responsible for the appointment, or is it the GWC who is responsible for the appointment?
Okay, my understanding is it's the department.
Can we then go back to a full view of page 5 of the witness statement? And then draw your attention to paragraph 14, in which you refer to being given an induction file. You say the contents of which Ms. Pemberton discussed with you and that you subsequently read in more detail. And then you go on in paragraph 15 to identify those documents. So if we can just... So the first document you refer to at 15.1 is a list of GWC meeting dates. And then the second is the GWC Code of Conduct of January 2018. Can we call up GWC.0003.003.001? Is this the document that you're referring to?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Commissioner, sorry, can I take, can we go to page 3? And go to the second paragraph and pop that out. So I take your attention to the second sentence, which says it's the responsibility of all members of the Commission to familiarise themselves with the code and to adopt the ethical standards described within it. And is it your understanding that this code applies to GWC members? Does it apply to GWC members?
Yes,
Yes.
it does.
And then if we can go to page 4 and pop out the very last paragraph. Ms. Fiorentino, at your witness statement at paragraph 58, you refer to a particular note. Can I ask you to confirm whether that's the note that you're referring to at paragraph 58 of your witness statement?
Correct, it is. Yes.
So, is it your understanding that this code of conduct applies to the GWC members, but not to departmental officers who are performing services for the GWC? Is that your understanding?
Can you rephrase that?
Sure. So we established earlier your understanding that this code of conduct applies to GWC members. Is it your understanding that this that this code does not apply to departmental officers who are performing services for the GWC?
Correct. My understanding, yes, that is my understanding, that the Code of Conduct is for GWC members, and that note on page 4 refers to department employees being bound by the department's code of conduct, correct?
Commissioner, I tender that document.
The January 2018 Code of Conduct, bearing the number that Mr Sharp referred to earlier, will be an exhibit.
We then go back to your witness statement. At page 5. The document you referred to at 15.3 is the Public Sector Commission Good Governance Guide for Public Sector Boards and Committees.
Yes.
Can we call up GWC.003.001.008? Is that the document that you're referring to at 15.3 of your witness statement?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Commissioner, I tender that document.
The Public Sector Commission document entitled Good Governance for Public Sector Boards and Committees, bearing the number that Mr Sharp has read out, will be an exhibit.
And if we go back to your witness statement at page 5, a note you also provided with, at 15.4, a GWC paper titled Differentiating Between Electronic Game Machines and Poker Machines, and various policies which you've listed at 15.5.
Various GWC policies
GWC.
at 15.5, correct.
Yes. So, in your witness statement at paragraph 14, you referred to Ms Pemberton discussing the documents in your induction file with you. What was the content of that discussion? What did Ms Pemberton tell you about those documents?
I recall she gave me the file and went through touching upon each of those documents. The meeting went for 1 hour, so it was not in depth, and I knew that I would be reading those subsequent to the induction meeting. It was just highlighting, pointing out each of the different documents, and then I was given the file to take with me.
And during that discussion, did Ms Pemberton or Mr Connolly tell you anything about the nature of the role of being a GWC member?
I do recall that the role as a GWC commissioner required the GWC to regulate gaming, gambling and wagering within WA and the responsible service of gambling in WA.
And was there any discussion at that meeting about whether it was any part of the GWC's function to monitor or regulate money laundering at the casino?
No.
Was it part of that discussion whether the GWC had a function regarding monitoring or regulating junkets at the casino?
No, I do not recall that at that meeting at all.
Was there any discussion about whether the GWC's function was to monitor or regulate criminal elements infiltrating casino operations?
No.
Was there any discussion at that meeting about whether it was the GWC's function to monitor or regulate problem gambling or gaming addiction?
I do recall there was mention that the GWC's one of its functions was the responsible service of gambling. So yes, I do recall that.
And at that meeting, was there any discussion of the GWC's role in assessing the suitability of the holder of the casino gaming licence for the Perth Casino?
So rephrase that, please.
Was there any discussion about whether the GWC had a role in assessing the suitability of the holder of the licence for gaming at the Perth Casino?
No, I don't recall. No.
So following your induction meeting, you received an email from Ms. Pemberton, and can we call up GWC.003.003.003.003? Is this the meeting? Sorry, is this the email that you refer to in your witness statement at paragraph 17?
Yes.
And it contains a link to GWC policies. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And it contains a list of current members of the GWC and their biographies.
Yes, correct.
And if we go to page 2, there's a draft bio that's included for you, is that correct?
Yes, there was a draft which I later updated, yes.
And how did you update that?
I expanded on that sentence.
Yes.
I just felt that was quite brief, and so I expanded on that. But otherwise, in essence, that is correct, but I just added additional detail about my biography.
And if we can scroll down to page 4, in your witness statement at paragraph 17.1, you state that the email attached a copy of the WA appendix to the 2016 Gaming Machine National Standard. And is that the document? I should say that's only the first page of the document. It's not the whole document that's been included in this exhibit. But is that the document that you're referring to in paragraph 17.1?
Yes, that looks like the front cover of the Gaming Machine National Standard, yes.
And that was provided to you as an attachment to that email?
It was it was a copy
Copy was provided,
attached, correct.
Commissioner, I tender GWC.003.003.003.003.
That's the email.
Yes.
So the email from Ms Pemberton to Ms Fiorentini dated 2 August 2018 bearing that number will be an exhibit.
Call up 003.003.006 and go to page 6, please. At paragraph 19.1, sorry, at paragraph 19, you say that you printed and read the following documents about the GWC and its functions, which you found from links provided to you by Ms Pemberton. The first document referred to is at 19.1, a summary paper on the WA gaming legislation, including background to the legislation and the current legislative framework.
Yes.
Where was that document? Where did you find that document?
This is in the chapeau, doesn't it, from the links provided?
I'm sorry?
It says it's in the chapeau from the links provided.
From the links provided.
It would have been in one of the links provided to me by Miss Pemberton in her email. That's the only way I would have discovered that.
But where was it from? Do you recall where it was from, that document?
In that email dated 2nd of August 2018 from Miss Pemberton, there were a number of links, but also further reading embedded within the links, and I wanted to familiarise myself completely, and so this might have been an additional attachment within one of the links. I don't recall exactly but I know it was definitely within the information and the links provided by Ms Pemberton.
I think the question was, do you know who prepared it? Whose paper it was?
No, I don't.
Later in your witness statement at paragraphs 34 to 35, you state that following your induction meeting, you printed an extract from the department's website titled The Role of the Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia, which contains the broad objectives of the GWC and the GWC's duties in relation to gaming and wagering, in relation to the gaming and wagering industry. And you identify that a copy of a printout from that website is next to your statement and marked GWC .003.003.005. Do you see that? Do you agree with that?
Yes,
Yes.
At paragraph 34 and paragraph 35 of my statement, yes.
I call up GWC.003.003.005. Is that the document that you're referring to there?
Yes, it is.
And can we just scroll down to show that it runs to 2 pages? And if we go back to the first page, do you agree that at the top left of the page it bears the date the 5th of November 2018?
Correct.
Commissioner attended that document.
So the document entitled The Role of the Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia, and having the number referred to by Mr. Shah will be an exhibit.
And at your witness statement at paragraph 20, you refer to the fact that about 1 month after the induction meeting, you were provided with an iPad for downloading GWC meeting agenda packs.
Yes, correct.
And how were the GWC member agenda packs provided to you using the iPad? How were they made available through the iPad?
Month by month or on that first meeting? What do you
On a
mean?
month-to-month basis.
Okay.
How was the iPad used?
So each month when the agenda packs were ready, we would receive an email from one of the regulatory officers at the department advising us that the agenda pack was ready for reading and for downloading on iAnnotate. The software used was called iAnnotate.
And how far in advance of meetings were the document packs provided to you?
Usually by the Thursday before the meeting on the following Tuesday, we would have access to the agenda packs on our iPads.
So then moving to the Australasian Casino and Gaming Regulations Conference in 2019, which is referred to at paragraph 21. Sorry. Yes, it is referred to paragraph 21 of your witness statement. You identify that all of the GWC commissioners were invited to that conference, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And who of the GWC commissioners, apart from you, attended that conference? Do you recall?
I recall Duncan Ord was at the workshops and seminars that I attended. I could not attend all the seminars. The 3 that I attended were noted there. I also recall Mr. Andrew Duckworth was at least one of the ones that I attended. I don't recall other commissioners, but they may have attended the seminars that I wasn't able to attend, so I can't comment.
And at paragraph 22 of your witness statement, you referred to providing a summary of your notes for the conference seminars to GWC members at a GWC meeting on the 28th of May 2019 at agenda item 5.7. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Can I call up GWC 0002.0016.0274 and go to page 72? So is this the agenda item 5.7 you're referring to?
Yes, it is.
And if we can then go to page 73. So are these the notes, summary notes which you provided to the other commissioners?
Correct. During that GWC meeting, yes, it was included within the agenda.
Can we just then go down to under the heading 15th of May 2019 and pop out firstly the paragraph beginning culture. Is this, so that this issue that's raised in this question is how should the casino regulator achieve monitoring of a casino's corporate culture? What's your view about that issue, the issue that you posed there?
Can you clarify that question?
Yes. So in that, sorry. Oh, okay. In that paragraph, you've posed the question, how should the casino regulator achieve monitoring of a casino's corporate culture?
Yes.
What's-
This wasn't my question. These were notes I took during the seminar from the presenters.
And what is your view? Do you have a view about how a casino regulator such as the GWC should monitor compliance of a casino's corporate culture?
Corporate culture is set by the directors. That tone is set at the top of the organisation. As a regulator, yes, there can be monitoring, and this is something all organisations are grappling with as to how to monitor corporate culture. But that is something set by the directors of that organisation.
And if we then go to the next question, so beginning with disruptors, if you can pop out the paragraph beginning disruptors. So note that the question at the end of that paragraph is, does the casino regulator have a role in safeguarding the casino industry? What's your view about whether the GWC has a role in safeguarding the casino industry in Western Australia, or specifically the Perth casino?
So first of all, this is a question that was posed by the presenter. So it's not necessarily my question, but it's a question posed by the presenter. My understanding is that the regulator, and this is obviously from my experience with the GWC, has a role in monitoring and regulating the casino industry within WA according to the legislation, and also the responsible provision of that of gambling. So within that broad context, that's my understanding.
So the specific question that's there is whether the casino regulator has a role in safeguarding the casino industry. Do you consider that the regulator does have that role? Does the GWC have the role of safeguarding the casino industry in Western Australia?
So it depends what you mean by safeguarding. That can be interpreted in so many different ways. Safeguarding the employees, safeguarding the casino revenue. I have not given it enough thought to form an opinion on that.
And then going to the third paragraph, starting with technology. So the question that's posed at the end of that paragraph is, how is the casino regulator keeping up with understanding technology changes? And so the question specifically relating to the GWC is, how is the GWC keeping up with understanding technology changes and how it impacts on its role in regulating the Perth casino?
So my perspective on this is that the gambling sector, not only within WA but within Australia, has many disruptors, and they're from a technology, online gambling background. Many are based outside of Australia and yet can target the West Australian community for online gaming. I feel that as a regulator, we are not, our legislation, our powers are not keeping up with these disruptors to the gambling sector within WA.
And so what would you suggest as reforms to the legislation to assist the GWC to keep up with technological change?
The technology disruption in gambling is borderless. It requires, I do think, national collaboration of regulators, and it's not unique to the gambling sector. There are many industries affected, but in particular with gambling, it requires national collaboration and reform.
We then go to page 74, the next page. Now note this is a page discussing, this is the seminar or session that you attended concerning illegal offshore and online wagering. I was going to ask you about your views about that, but is there anything you wish to add to what you've just said? I think you've just been addressing that topic, about how that affects casino regulation in Western Australia. I think you've just, is there anything you wish to add? Yeah.
I've answered
You've
that.
answered, yes.
Thank you.
And as a consequence of you putting forward your paper, was there a discussion about any of the matters that we've just gone through at the GWC meeting?
The information was noted, but nothing further was taken from that.
Can we then go to page 75? So page 75, which is the second attachment, is the Australia and New Zealand Casino and Gaming Regulators draft minutes from the 15th of May 2018. So I note that this is before you were a member of the GWC, but I take it you obtained these draft minutes when you attended the 2019 meeting, is that correct?
We were given a copy of these, correct.
I note that in the preliminaries dealing with who's present, that there doesn't appear to be a representative from Western Australia present. Do you agree that there wasn't, according to the minutes, a representative present in 2018?
South Australia, Tasmania. From those minutes, there doesn't appear to be anyone from WA representative on that meeting.
And as a more general matter, does Western Australia, does the GWC as West Australia's casino and gaming regulator actively participate with the Australia and New Zealand casino and gaming regulators?
My understanding is this group of regulators nationally met once per year. May 2018, which obviously I wasn't present. There was the May 2019, during which I was present, and I recall discussions at that meeting in May 2019 to meet twice a year. So it doesn't meet often at all.
And when it does meet, does the GWC send a representative on a regular basis, or is it not something that the GWC really actively participates in?
It's not actively participating in. As I said, members were invited to attend. I did attend the May 2019, but it wasn't something that was actively enforced at the GWC meetings.
And do you think it would be a benefit to the GWC to become regularly involved with the Australia New Zealand casino and gaming regulators?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes.
Commissioner, I tender that document.
Commissioner, before that document is received as an exhibit, can I just raise a non-publication issue? It applies to this document and a number of other documents which for convenience, broadly the documents which are identified as GWC.000.2.0016 and then various other documents with that same prefix. There may be material within those documents that the Crown entities wish to press a non-publication order. This material, and the similar material runs for several hundred pages, was only received late last night, and so my instructors have not had sufficient opportunity to work through those materials to assess whether the non-publication order will be pressed in relation to that material. I understand that this issue may have been raised last week by Mr. Darmananda as well, and there is, I understand, a protocol potentially that's yet to be agreed in relation to it.
In that case, I won't press the tender, but simply ask that it be marked for identification.
I was just wondering if the pages that have been shown to the witness, do they present any problem?
I'd need to take
Your
instructions.
instructor, I think, is shaking her head.
I'm instructed that those particular pages there's no issue. It's a question as to whether within the several hundred other pages, in fact probably thousands of pages, having regard to the full list that we've received, that there may be material within there.
So the pages from these minutes, or the agenda paper I should say, were pages 72 through to 75, is that right?
75 is the first page of the minutes of the Gaming Regulators Conference, but if we can scroll through, we can quickly identify how it's only a few pages. Can we scroll through? Yeah, keep going.
So that's 75
So yeah,
to 84.
Stop there. Yeah.
Or 80,
85 is a blank page.
75 to 85 of the, can you just tell me what they are? They're the minutes of the GWC of what date?
Sorry, these are the minutes of the Australia and this
Oh, yes,
the
but
second
they're-
attachment. The Australian and New Zealand Casino and Gaming Regulators minutes of Board and Commission Members Forum,
Yeah.
15.
But they actually formed part of the GWC agenda
Yes.
papers?
So
because
it's-
that document
it's-
down the bottom actually has the Gaming and Wagering Commission's.
Yes, so agenda item 5.7 starts at page 72. Perhaps we can go back to page 72. So that's the first page, identifying the agenda item, and then there's two attachments. The first attachments being Ms Fiorentino's notes of her attendance at the Australasian Casino and Gaming Regulation Conference of 2019, Regulators Conference of 2019, and the second attachment being the minutes from the Australasian Casino and Gaming Regulators Conference held on 15 May 2018. I should say the draft minutes.
So, Mr. Garris, is there any problem with pages 72 through to 85 inclusive of those minutes of the meeting on 28 or May 2000? Oh, I shouldn't say that was the date of the meeting, but is that the date of the meeting, 28 May 2019, or is that the date of the agenda papers?
The date of the meeting was the 28th of May 2019.
Good, thank you. So, Mr. Garris, back to you. Is there any difficulty with pages 72 through to 85 of the agenda pack for the GWC meeting on the 28th of May 2019 becoming an exhibit?
I'm instructed that there is no issue with those particular pages, Commissioner. I understand that last week the position that was being adopted was that these exhibits or these documents were not being received as exhibits as yet until there was an opportunity to potentially apply redactions. Redactions may be then received as the exhibit, whether that may be a more convenient course in relation to all these documents, as it is quite an extensive list of these similar agendas and minutes.
Right. It's just that if there isn't any difficulty with them and we exhibit them, then it's over and done with and the issue's resolved
I certainly
here
think
and
it-
now. So
yes.
I can't see that there'd be any need for any redaction in these documents.
I'm certainly content
So-
if it's just these pages that are received as the exhibit. We certainly have no issue with that, Commissioner.
That's all. So I will exhibit those pages, and they have the number 000. Well, I won't read out the number. You've read it. You've read them out previously, Mr. Sharp. But it's the 10 pages from 72 through to 85. That's not 10. I can't count. It's 13 or so. Of the minutes of the GWC meeting on 28 May 2019. Thank you.
We'll then turn to paragraph 23 of your witness statement. And in your witness statement, you state that you did not have any areas of specific responsibility on the GWC, but that you and Jodie Meadows are more interested in the financial statements because of your background as chartered accountants. Is that correct?
I'll
Sorry.
rephrase
You
that.
No, you phrase it in your own
When
words.
I was appointed, my understanding of I had no specific areas of responsibility. However, because of my background as a chartered accountant, and Jodie has the same background, we did naturally take quite an interest in the financial statements as well, correct?
And witness statement at paragraph 25 of your witness statement, you refer to the department's internal audit committee, which was established pursuant to the West Australian Treasurer's instruction.
Correct, yes.
We call up GWC.002.0016.0306. Go to page 181. Is this the agenda item that you refer to in your witness statement?
Yes, it is.
If we can go to page 182, is that the Treasurer's instruction which you're referring to in your witness statement?
Yes, it is.
Now, Commissioner, I did have in mind to tender this, but it may be that it will cause more issues to tender these now, and if there's been an agreed protocol, perhaps we should simply mark these for identification for the time being.
Yes, certainly.
So I'll ask that the agenda item 11.3 be marked for identification.
So there, the first document you showed the witness was the front page of the minutes, is that right? Of the agenda?
The agenda item, can we please scroll back to the first page? Yes, so that's agenda item 11.3.
And how many pages form this agenda paper?
It runs, the Treasurer's instruction runs from pages 182 to 186.
Those pages will be marked for identification.
Now, Ms Fiorentino, I understand that during discussions in 2020, you and Jodie Meadows both expressed an interest in being the GWC's representative on the Internal Audit Committee, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And ultimately, Jodie Meadows was appointed because you had existing commitments that meant that you could only attend 2 of the 4 scheduled meetings.
Yes.
And are you aware whether the department's Internal Audit Committee has met at this time?
It has not yet met, to my understanding, that they haven't yet met.
Turning then to paragraph 28 of your witness statement. You refer to applying for and receiving 50% of your travel costs up to a maximum of $2,000 towards your Director of Professional Development for attending the Australian Institute of Company Directors Annual Governance Summit on the 4th and 5th of March 2019 in Sydney.
Yes, correct.
I call up GWC.0002.0016.0270 and please go to page 8. Scroll down so that item 12 is showing. Item 12 then I think runs over the page, so if you can scroll down so that you're showing both the bottom of page 8 and the top of page 9. So in the second paragraph on page 9, it's recorded that you notified the Commission of your registration to attend the summit that we just discussed.
Yes.
And then go back to the full document. And then there's a discussion which is recorded in the last paragraph, which leads to the agreement that you will have 50% of your travel costs up to a maximum of $2,000 refunded.
Yes, correct.
I'll mark that for identification. So that's agenda item 12 in GWC.0002.0016.0270 being the minutes of the meeting of the GWC of the 26th February 2019.
Thank you. So Ms Fiorentina, down the bottom in paragraph 12, what's the commission meeting that Mr Sargent was going to attend? Which commission?
Commission considered. So where it's referring to the March meeting, that would be the GWC meeting. Commission's pending consideration.
Oh, I see. He was going to be in Sydney.
That's right,
I see, and it was a question of him returning to
Returning.
Perth for
for the
the
March
March meeting.
GWC meeting.
Thank you. I read it incorrectly. Thank you, Mr. Sharp.
And why did you ask the GWC to contribute to your costs of travel for attending that summit?
So as a director, professional director, I believe it's important to keep my skills up to date. That summit in particular was a substantial theme, was around the governance changes following the Hayne Royal Commission, and I was very interested to attend. I also felt it was important that other commissioners knew the contents of that that conference. And yes, I applied if there was a policy in regards to professional development of directors, and the agreement was to pay up to 50% of my costs. My costs were substantially lower, and only $778 required reimbursement.
If I can call up GWC.0002.0016.0268. Go to page 16, please. So this is the agenda for the 26th of March 2019, and this is, you just referred to having provided a summary to the other members. Is this the agenda item through which you provided that summary?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And if we can just scroll through that document through to page 24, just page at a time. So those are the notes that you provided to the other GWC members for their consideration.
During that GWC meeting, yes,
Yes.
yes, they are.
And was there any discussion of the issues which you raised at the meeting that you can recall?
I recall my notes were accepted, they were noted, but I don't recall any following discussion.
Commissioner, I'll mark for identification pages 16 to 24 of GWC.002.0016.0268.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. They will be marked for identification.
Turning then to paragraph 29, you talk about your actual monthly time commitment in performing your role as a member of the GWC, and you identify in 29.1 that preparation for meetings takes between 5 to 7 hours.
That's purely reading the agenda packs, yes, correct.
And that attendance at the GWC meeting each month usually takes between 3 and 4 hours.
Yes, correct.
And that you then travel when the meetings are in person. That's a further time commitment.
Yes.
And then at 29.4 you refer to other GW business which takes an additional 5 to 10 hours.
5 to 10 hours per month.
Per month.
Yes.
And has the time taken to attend to the other GWC business changed since you first joined the GWC?
It has definitely increased. Definitely the time commitment particularly during late 2019 and during 2020 with the keeping up with the reading on what was happening around Australia and allegations towards Crown, I was spending a lot more time on GWC matters.
And have you received any additional remuneration for the increase in activities that you've had to perform as a GWC member, or is it still the 16,600 per annum?
It is still the same annual setting fee. There's no additional remuneration.
And is there any proposal to increase the remuneration of GWC members?
I'm not aware of any.
Or is there any proposal to make any allowance for the additional time that's currently required for GWC members?
So relating to this Royal Commission, there was discussion and agreement that members record the additional time that's being taken towards Royal Commission matters, and to submit it to the department for reimbursement. That hasn't happened yet.
No. Has there been agreement about the rate at which reimbursement will occur, the hourly rate for reimbursement?
The discussion, I recall, referred to the members' sitting fee rate would be, that annual rate would be used on an hourly basis.
And how will the GWC fund the additional payments to members?
My understanding is it would come from the GWC finances.
And will that come from existing financial sources, or will there be an application for further, for example, appropriations from government?
I'm really unsure. I'm really unsure on that.
Commissioner, I note the time I'm about to embark on a new topic. If it's convenient, should we adjourn now?
Certainly, Mr. Sharp. Ms. Fiorentini, we'll have morning tea now. If you could be back here in time to recommence at 11:30. We have 15 minutes, I think, for morning tea, and we will adjourn until 11:30.
Hearing's adjourned. All rise.
Please be seated. Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Call up GWC dot 0003.003.006, Ms. Fiorentino's statement at page 10. So when at paragraph 36 of your witness statement, you state that you consider that the GWC has been obstructed in the exercise of its powers and discharge of its responsibilities and obligations whilst you've been a member of the GWC, in the sense that it's faced certain obstacles, and then you running over the page, you identify 4 obstacles. The 4th obstacle that you identify is that the Department's Director General, Duncan Ord, performs the dual roles of GWC Chair and Department Director General. Why have you identified that as an obstacle, or how is that an obstacle?
For good governance, a chair should be completely independent, to have full powers towards governance of the Commission. I do feel that, as I stated there, performing the dual roles of Chair as well as Director General is not in accordance with good governance practices.
Then the first 3 that you identify are that the GWC is totally reliant on the Department's staff for support. The Department has staff resourcing constraints, and that there's dependence on key Department staff, particularly Mr. Connolly as the Chief Casino Officer. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And apart from those matters, are there any other obstacles that you consider impede the exercise of the functions of the GWC, or is that those are the ones that you wish to address?
Those are the ones as included in my statement that I see, yes.
So at your witness statement at 38.1, you state that you've experienced obstacles as a GWC Commissioner in respect of the issue of key performance indicators. And you refer to an agenda item 11.5 that was presented during your first GWC meeting on the 20th of August 2018. You call up GWC.002.0016.0239 and turn to page 497, please. Is this the agenda item that you were referring to there?
Yes, it is.
Perhaps can we just scroll through the pages through to page 503 just to see what's there? Now, would you please explain, by reference to those documents, the concerns that you had regarding KPIs, or the concerns you expressed at that time?
As a chartered accountant, my understanding of key performance indicators is they're used firstly to identify the objectives of the organisation and measure performance towards those objectives. When we were presented with this during the August 2018 GWC meeting, I could not make sense of it, and I expressed my concern during that meeting that this is meaningless to me. It's a working document on an Excel spreadsheet, and we really need a complete review of KPIs.
And in your view, how should the KPIs have been improved? Or
What I stated during that meeting is that we really need to firstly understand the objectives of the GWC and then indicators to measure performance towards those objectives. So this was a strategic review. That was what I was requesting.
Commissioner, I'll mark those pages of GWC.0002.0016.0239 for identification.
They are so marked.
I call up GWC.0002.0016.0256. And please go to page 11. So in your witness statement at paragraph 38.2, you referred to the KPI issue you raised being added to a list of, quote, matters to be actioned, end quote.
Yes, correct.
Is this the document that you're referring to in your witness statement at 38.2?
So it's agenda item 5.1 in the GWC minutes of October 2018. Yes, it
If it
certainly
is
looks...
this, we can go back to the first page. You can see that it's the 23 October.
Okay,
Should we-
yes,
can
it
we go back
mentions
to-
it at the bottom, yes.
Yes, okay.
23rd of October 2018, yes, correct.
And you state that the KPI issue was described as, quote, provide a review / progress report on regulatory responsibilities across the department. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And if we can go to the next page of that document, is that 5.7 on that list? Is that the...
Yes, it is.
And the responsible officer is identified as DDGR. Who's that?
That's Mr. Michael Connolly.
Mr. Connolly?
Yes, at that time, yes.
And it's stated that the date due for that item is December 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
And who set that as a deadline? Who set the December 2018 deadline?
My recollection is that that deadline was set by Mr. Connolly and the GWC approved that.
So then in your witness statement at 38.3, you mentioned that you raised the KPI issue during a number of subsequent GWC meetings and that it was due to severe departmental staff resourcing constraints, actioning of that item continued to be delayed. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
In your, at 38.3.1 of your witness statement, you refer to agenda item 11.4 of the meeting of 29 October 2019. Do you see that?
Yes, yes, I do.
I call up GWC.0002.0016.0289. So you can see this is the agenda for the meeting of 29 October 2019, and then please go to page 192. So this is the agenda item that you refer to in your witness statement, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Then a note at paragraph 39 of your witness statement, you refer to the OAG, which I take it is the Office of the Auditor General, is that correct?
Yes,
Had issued the GWC with a management letter dated the 5th of September 2019, noting KPI targets as a moderate finding and of sufficient concern requiring action to be taken. If we can go to page 193 of the document on the screen. Is that the letter that you're referring to at paragraph 39 of your witness statement?
So if that's the letter dated 5th of September 2019, I think further on,
Can we scroll down? Yeah.
it refers to this KPI targets as a moderate finding.
Thank you. Can we scroll down to the next page, please? Go to the next page. So you can see the date of the letter now.
Yes,
is the 5th.
that would be the letter I'm referring to, yes.
And can we scroll to the next page, please? So when you referred to the noting of KPI targets as a moderate finding and of sufficient concern requiring action to be taken, is this the document that you're referring to?
Yes.
And the interpretation of the moderate finding is to be understood by reference to the key to the ratings document. Is that correct?
On that page.
Oh, on that page.
Yes, correct.
Could we go back to the first page so I can have a look at what was said?
Yes. Can we to the first page of the letter?
Yes.
Yes. So next page, please.
That it might set out what the issue was with the KPIs, but am I missing something in my
I
scan
think
of the document?
Can we go to the next page? I think the maybe we can ask Ms. Fiorentino if you can assist us in understanding what is the KPI issue that's being identified at this time by the Auditor General.
Can you go to the next page, 196? And there it discusses a little bit further. There was one particular KPI that had not changed since 2017-18, and the OAG understood, or my understanding was that it needed to be reviewed. That particular indicator needed to be reviewed.
Thank you.
Then you refer to raising the KPI review issue on the 17th of December 2019, the 25th of February 2020, the 28th of April 2020, and then on the 28th of July 2020. And at 38.3.5 of your witness statement, you refer to agenda item 5.3, confirmation of intent to amend target KPIs for 2019-2020. In that document, the second document ID that you've identified is GWC.0002.0016.0310. I'll call up that document. So call up GWC.0002.0016.0310. So this is the agenda for 25 August 2020, but if we go to page 3, so this is the draft minutes of the meeting of 28 July 2020, so I take it you're intending to refer to
Yes.
this part of the document.
Correct.
And then if we go to item 5.3, sorry, which is on page 5. Good. And can we have the next page? Thank you. So if I can take you to item 5.3, it appears to be dealing with two issues. The first is to reaffirm approval of an amendment to a specific KPI, and that also appears in the first part of the resolution, which is 115 of 2020. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And is that addressing the specific issue which was raised by the Auditor General?
Yes, it was. That particular resolution was, yes.
And the second issue that appears to be being dealt with appears from the second resolution, which is stated to be that the GWC reaffirms the Commission's intent to initiate a full review of KPIs to better reflect the desired performance of the Commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you, in your witness statement, were referring to raising the issue again, did you raise it in the course of the discussion which led to that resolution?
Yes, I did.
And what did you say during that discussion?
I recall expressing my concerns that a review of the KPIs had not yet been commenced. I understood that was related to staff resourcing constraints at the department. Nonetheless, I requested that we needed to have a review of KPIs to ensure that they were fit for purpose for the GWC.
Commissioner, a remark for identification GWC.002.0016.0310 at pages 5 and 6.
They will be marked for identification with that number. Ms. Fiorentino, can I ask you about the first issue which is dealt with in that report? In the last paragraph on page 3, the KPI to be clarified was amended at the previous meeting and was in relation to the integrity of casino operations. Number where unlawful, which has been set to an unlikely figure. Was that a target that was set to an unlikely figure, or I just can't see how the KPI itself could be set to an unlikely figure? The report is what it is, isn't it? Yeah. If you've got so many unlawful occurrences, you've got so many.
My understanding was that it was the target that was set at a figure that was too high at 10, and that a target should be something you're aspiring towards, and the OAG expressed concern at the figure 10, and that the target should be reviewed, and we agreed to reduce it to 1, which was acceptable to the OAG.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharp.
At paragraph 40 of your witness statement, you referred to a GWC meeting on the 22nd of September 2020 at item 12, and you referred to GWC.002.0016.0315. Do you see that?
Yes.
I call up that document, GWC.0002.0016.0315. So this is the agenda pack for 27th of October. But if we can go to page 3. So I take you're intending to refer to the draft minutes which are at page 3?
Correct, the meeting minutes of the 22nd of September 2020.
And you referred to item 12, so can we please go to page 9? So item 12, general business, the DDG, that's, I take it, Michael Connolly, is that correct?
Mr. Connolly, correct.
And so this is the paragraph that you're referring to in your witness statement at 40. And I note in particular the last sentence, the proposal will include details of how structure and function will align with the core business objectives of the Commission, as well as recommended key performance indicators and a revised reporting framework. So what was the nature of the discussion or the nature of the proposal that was put forward by Michael Connolly during that meeting? It's been minuted here.
My recollection was that Mr. Connolly advised the members that he understood there needed to be restructure of support given by the department to the GWC. Part of that reform and review would include review of KPIs and also a review of the reporting to the GWC.
Commissioner, I seek to have that document GWC.0002.0016.0315 at page 9 marked for identification.
Yes, that will be so marked. So what is your understanding as to how far that proposal has advanced?
At this point in time, it hasn't advanced yet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharp.
At paragraph 41, you refer to the GWC's approval of the hiring of an external consultant to review the KPIs, and that you state that the department staff resources were so constrained that scoping and managing this project with an external consultant did not proceed.
Yes.
Did the GWC commissioners themselves give consideration to stepping in and doing the scoping and managing of the external consultancy themselves?
So each of us commissioners has other responsibilities as well. We certainly discussed how we could get this project moving, understanding the delays that were happening at the department, the staff resource constraints, but none of us could actually, none of us were able to step in and actually do the project scoping and management.
Turning then to the next topic. At paragraph 44 of your witness statement, you state that it's your understanding that it is not within the GWC's function or powers to regulate or monitor risks associated with money laundering or player criminal links to the casino, and that regulation of these risks are within the powers and remit of other agencies, for example, AUSTRAC and or the AFP. How did you reach the understanding which you've expressed in paragraph 44?
So going back to my induction, certainly there was no reference at all to our powers or responsibilities being related to anti-money laundering or probity into player criminal links at the casino. But this was also confirmed, my recollection is, during a GWC meeting in 2019. My recollection is my understanding was further confirmed during a discussion during a meeting.
And at paragraph 45 of your witness statement, you refer to the GWC not, to the best of your knowledge, having any specific policies or procedures relating to risks associated with money laundering and criminals infiltrating casino operations. As regards money laundering, do you think that the GWC should now, do you now think the GWC should develop policies to deal with money laundering at the casino, or the issue of money laundering at the casino?
I think that's a question that requires substantial reform and rethink, and beyond my experience and capability, I certainly have no experience in anti-money laundering, so I really can't comment on that.
Do you understand the GWC to have a role to play in licensing casino employees?
Yes.
And do you consider that an aspect of that role may be relevant to the question of criminal elements infiltrating casino operations?
So my understanding is that the GWC does have probity, looking into probity approvals for casino employees and key casino employees. Part of performing that role is getting police clearance, and that is the extent that I understand our responsibilities as GWC members.
Turning then to paragraph 47 of the witness statement, you refer to junket operations. And you refer to Section 25A of the Casino Control Act and state your understanding that the GWC does have specific powers to regulate and monitor junkets at the Perth Casino, but that probity into alleged criminal links of junket players is not within the powers of the GWC. And you refer to a resolution at document GWC.0002.0016.0286. I'll call up that document, GWC. So these are the meeting minutes of the meeting on the 27th of August 2019, is that correct?
Yes.
If we can go to page 3, please. And if we go to item 6.4, I take it that's the item that you're referring to at paragraph 47 of your witness statement?
Yes.
And again, it says the DDGR, that's Michael Connolly, is that correct?
At that time, yes, it was Mr. Connolly, yes.
And there's discussion there of the DDGR being authorised to explore the idea of a national framework for the approval and management of junket activities. Can you explain how your understanding, you say your understanding was confirmed by this item. Can you explain how this discussion relating to this item confirmed your understanding about GWC's responsibilities in respect of junket operations?
During the meeting, yes, there was discussion around the GWC's role in monitoring junket operations, and what I understood and what was resolved, that criminal links to do with junket players was not within the remit of GWC. So note 1 refers to federal border protection agencies who issue the visas. That was my understanding, that it was not within our remit, and that we we would be advised if there was an issue. So that confirmed my understanding, which was from the induction meeting.
Can I call up GWC.003.007.0011? Now, this is a briefing note to the Minister. If you can go to the next page, please. See, it's signed by Michael Connolly and dated the 30th of July 2019. Can we go back to the first page, please? Is this a document which you've previously seen?
I have previously seen this. This is my understanding, this is a draft briefing note.
Ah, was there a briefing note that was finalised and sent?
Look, I'd have to check back on the meeting resolution. I recall this being discussed as a draft during that August 2019 GWC meeting.
And in the course of that, is there anything that was discussed in the course of discussing this briefing note that informed your understanding about the GWC's role in respect of junket operations?
So repeat,
Sorry, that was
clarify that, please.
during the discussion of this draft briefing note. Was there discussion of junket operations which has influenced your understanding of how the GWC has responsibilities in respect of junket operations?
So my recollection is this draft briefing note was also attached to this particular agenda item 6.4. That's my recollection without having the pack in front of me. And yes, it did clarify my understanding through that resolution during that meeting at that agenda item.
Commissioner, I tender GWC.0003.007.0011.
That will be an exhibit.
We call up PUB.0004.005.001. So this is the Casino Control Act. We go to page 46, please. In your witness statement at paragraph 47, you refer to section 25A of the Casino Control Act. How is your understanding of the role of the GWC in respect of junkets informed by or affected by section 25A?
Look, my understanding is that that section of the Casino Control Act gives us power to regulate and monitor junket operations, but not beyond that towards investigating criminal links. That was my understanding.
So not beyond investigating criminal links, and how was the GWC to investigate those criminal links? What's your understanding of how that was to occur?
Well, I didn't realise that it was actually, well, I didn't understand that it was within our remit to investigate criminal links of players in junket activities. So I had, no understanding of that.
Understood. Can we call up GWC.0002.0016.0369? So this is the meeting minutes for the 23rd of February 2021. Can we go to page 4, please? Yeah, it's okay. And if we go, can you show the next page at the same time, please? So if we go to item 5.3, it refers to a resolution to give effect to a direction to Crown Perth to prohibit the conduct of junkets. Why has the GWC now taken the step of issuing a direction to prohibit the conduct of junkets?
So this was following the release of the Bergen report in New South Wales. Clearly there was activity that has occurred, has been alleged to occur, that has occurred, that was raised in the Bergen report, and we discussed the next step, and we felt it was appropriate to give effect to a direction to Crown Perth to cease junkets and junket player activity.
And how else has the Bergen report caused you to sorry, I'll step back. Has the Bergen report caused you to take a different approach to your role on the GWC other than in relation to junkets?
Can you expand on that?
So we've just been discussing that the Bergen report has led the GWC to take the view that it should issue this prohibition on junkets. Has the Bergen report led to other changes in view, either of you or of the GWC generally, about how it should conduct its role of regulating Perth Casino?
Well, firstly, I think that's the whole purpose of this Royal Commission is to fully investigate the powers and duties of the Gaming Commission. So I welcome that. Yes, there is heightened scrutiny. There was previously, but even more, further so. So yes, it has raised a number of concerns for GWC members.
Commissioner, mark GWC.0002.0016.0369 at pages 4 to 5 for identification.
Right, the minutes with that number will be an exhibit. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I think marked for identification.
Will be marked for identification.
Turning then to your witness statement at 57.1. So at 57, you referred to conflicts that you've declared on the GWC conflict of interest register.
Yes.
And at 57.1, you note that you declared that you knew Joshua Preston, who was an employee of Perth Casino until December 2020 because he's a colleague and friend of your ex-husband. Is that correct?
Yes, as stated there, my ex-husband is colleagues and friends of Josh Preston, but I haven't met with him in over 20 years.
And just for clarification, when you refer to your ex-husband being a colleague, your ex-husband is not an employee of Crown?
No.
No. The second conflict that you declared was at the meeting on 16 February 2021. You referred to declaring a conflict of interest at that GWC meeting, and that you expressed an interest in a director position at Future Fund Australia, of which Mr. John Point is a director. and that Mr. Poynton is a previous chair of the Perth Casino. At the time that you expressed that interest, was Mr. Poynton still a director of Perth Casino?
Yes, he was.
Yes. And so when did you express the interest?
That was during 2020. My recollection is August or September 2020. I expressed my interest.
And why did you declare this as a conflict?
Look, I feel as a director and commissioner on the GWC, even perceived conflicts of interest need to be declared, even though there's no actual conflict of interest. It's a perceived conflict, and I just felt that was important to declare that.
And you've also indicated that you have not met with Mr. Poynton and that your expression of interest did not lead to any appointment to the future fund.
No, not as yet anyway, no.
Oh, so the expression of interest is still registered with
My
the future fund?
inquiry with Mr. Poynton was what is the process for appointment, and I expressed an interest in a future appointment on the Future Fund Australia.
Turning then to your witness statement at paragraph 58, you state that you're not aware of the GWC having a conflicts of interest policy, but departmental staff and other persons carrying out duties on behalf of the GWC. Is that correct?
GWC having a conflicts of interest, yeah. I'm not aware of the GWC itself having a conflicts of interest policy for department staff, correct?
And we went earlier to the note in the Code of Conduct which said that departmental staff will be regulated by their own departmental Code of Conduct rather than by the GW, by that Code of Conduct, is that?
That's correct.
Yes.
They're regulated by the department's Code of Conduct, correct?
So there's no procedure in place by which a departmental officer who's acting to provide services for the GWC would be required to provide notice of that conflict to the GWC.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes, so the position is that a departmental officer who is in a position of conflict would need to declare that to the department through the department's policy. Is that your understanding?
That's my understanding, yes.
But there's not a policy which would require a departmental officer who has a conflict in performing obligations for or exercising powers for GWC to declare to the GWC that they have a conflict. Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's my understanding, yes.
Can we go to GWC.002.0016.033? If you go to item 2, it's the DDG, the Deputy Director General, again, that's Michael Connolly.
Yes,
So Michael Connolly disclosed that he had a friendship with Claude Murray, General Manager Legal and Compliance with Crown Perth. Is that correct?
yes, correct.
And you stated at your witness statement at paragraph 37 that the GWC was dependent on Mr. Connolly.
As Chief Casino Officer, yes, the GWC relied on his knowledge of casino regulations. Yes, correct.
And how did you react when you learned that Mr. Connolly was friends with the General Manager of Legal Compliance at Crown Perth?
Look, I had a level of discomfort, quite a level of discomfort. It was... The conflict was noted, but nothing further was done.
paragraph 59 of your witness statement, you refer to GWC members requesting that the acting Chief Casino Officer, Mr. Mark Beecroft, also complete the GWC conflict of interest register.
Yes.
Do you consider that there should be a policy for departmental staff who are acting to exercise powers or provide services to the GWC, exercise the powers of the GWC or provide services to the GWC, to advise the GWC about conflicts that they have?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Turning then to a different topic, we call up GWC 0002.0016.0298. And go to page 383. And go to page 383. So this is agenda item 11.2, which sets out the GWC budget for 2020 to 2021. If we scroll through just to show that it runs to page 387. All right, if we can go back to page 385. If we can look at the right column, which is the annual budget for 2020-21. I won't get you to pop anything out, just leave it as is. Just would like to ask you some questions about this budget document. If we start by going to revenue from services, it shows that the largest revenue source for the GWC is the casino gaming licence fee, which is about $3 million. Is that correct? Is that a correct interpretation of that?
Yes, the figure mentioned there, $3,001,476, correct.
And then if we turn to the operating expenses, it shows that the budget for fees paid to board members is for 2020-2021 $116,465. Is that correct?
Correct. And
that the largest item of operating expenses is services provided by the DLGSC, which is the department.
Yes, correct.
Which is $4,215,105.
Correct.
On the casino gaming licence fee, is it your understanding that that casino gaming licence fee should be applied only to casino regulation, or that it can be applied generally for GWC operations?
My understanding is the latter, that the licence fee from the casino forms part of general revenue, and then there is no specific allocation as to what that gets exactly, or that's got to be used exactly for casino regulation.
And are you aware, is that the general understanding of the GWC?
I can't comment on other GWC members, but certainly that's my understanding.
Commissioner, I asked that GWC 0002.0016.0298 at pages 383 to 387 be marked for identification.
They will be so marked with those numbers. Have you finished with that document, Mr. Sharp?
Yes, I was going to move to another document.
because I just,
Yes.
whilst it's up there,
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question. So we see that the services provided by the department are the most substantial cost or expense, and you would have seen that in the budgets and financial accounts. How did you think that that number was determined?
Which particular number in?
Well, either,
particular?
you know, if it was 2018-19, it was $4,140,575, or you know, later on it was a bit different. But how did you think that amount was calculated?
Look, my understanding, and I don't know if there's a specific formula, but it seemed to be, I guess, a balancing item in the budget for the services provided by the department. I don't know because, you know, I don't know within the department what formula exactly was used, but what I noticed was that I guess the net income minus expenses would always balance out. So it seemed to me to be a balancing item.
And that didn't cause you any concern that maybe it was just sort of simply plucked out of the air by virtue of to balance the income?
So my understanding was the department fully supported the Gaming Commission, and for that, you know, and their services, and also audit, investigations of gambling and casino, they had the staff. So no, I didn't question how that was actually calculated. No, I didn't.
And did you have an understanding as to whether that sum represented the cost of the total services, that is all the services provided by the department to the GWC, or did you think there might be uncosted services?
My understanding was that was the fully costed amount for services provided by the department.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sharp.
Call up GWC 0002.0016.0313. So these are the minutes for 25th of August 2020. Can I go to page 6, please? If we look at agenda item 11.2, we pop out the fourth paragraph, please.
Right.
So the Commission informed members that the Department is proposing to increase the fee for services provided to the Commission by 5%. When was that increased fee going to take effect or proposed to take effect?
Well, just from reading that, it would be to do with the GWC budget for year ending 30th of June 21, because it appears to be related to that budget.
And do you recall if the chairman gave an explanation of the basis for that fee increase?
I do recall a brief explanation, but it was not minuted, so I must say I don't recall the details of that.
No. That's good. And was there discussion by the GWC of whether it should agree to that fee increase?
Well, the resolution shows we approved the budget, so that fee increase is included in the budget, so clearly we agreed to it, yes.
So perhaps to put it another way, would the GWC accept the figure that was put by the chairman for departmental services, accept that as the value, or would the GWC consider that that was a fee that was able to be negotiated, or that the cost was able to be negotiated between the GWC and the department?
I don't recall negotiations. I do recall brief discussion about the reason behind that 5% increase, but certainly not negotiations, no.
And how does the GWC take steps to ensure that the services provided by the department are commensurate in value to the service fee that's paid to the department?
No, the GWC doesn't audit the department's services provided to the GWC.
If we can then go back to the document and pop out the 6th paragraph, beginning members discussed. So if I can ask you just to read that paragraph, and I'll ask you some questions about it.
Certainly.
Is what's been minuted here that the department identified it was paying WA Police to do probity checks that the WA Police were no longer performing? Is that what's being said here? I'm asking because I don't understand what's being said here.
Look, just reading that, my understanding from that is that there was an expense billed to the department, which in actual fact should be a GWC expense, and that department officer advised the GWC that this properly belongs in the GWC financial statements and budget. That's my understanding.
So there's a service which is being provided by WA Police, which the department says should be being billed directly to the GWC rather than being billed to the department.
Yes, that's my reading of that. Yes, correct.
Turning to another topic, has the GWC ever received a formal statement of expectation from the Minister about its functions and operations? To your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Has the GWC developed a skills matrix for the skills of GWC commissioners?
No.
Can I call up GWC.0002.0016.0349? These are the minutes.
Agenda.
No, the agenda. Sorry, can we turn to page 3? No, don't go to that page, sorry. Is that the right document? Sorry, go back to the first page. No, I don't want that one. Sorry, can we go back to page 5? Yes, that's all right. Okay. This is an agenda item from that meeting, which concerns the delegation to Mr. Beecroft of powers of the GWC. So if we can go down to under the current situation, refers to the fact that the position of the Deputy Director General currently has delegation for all of the Commission's powers conferred by the 4 acts that are listed there, except for the power of delegation itself. And then it says that due to the Deputy Director General stepping aside as Chief Casino Officer, it's necessary to delegate these powers to the Director of Strategic Regulation. So I understand that it's the substantive position of Mark Beecroft. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding, yes.
And then if we go to go to the next page. Oh, sorry, and the following page. So this is the proposed direction that the GWC delegates to the holder of the position of Director of Strategic Regulation, the Commission's powers with respect to those 4 acts, under those 4 acts.
Yes.
Commissioner, I'd ask that be marked for identification, that GWC.0002.0016.0349 at pages 5 to 7.
Thank you. They will be so marked with that number.
And then we turn to, call up GWC.0002.0016.0368. So these are the minutes of that meeting, and go to page 3. I need to get it. Okay. Sorry, just bear with me, just get a different version of the document up. Can we go to page 3, please? Sorry, GWC.0002.0016.0368. Go to page 3.
This is the operator from Law and Order. Apologies, I seem to only have access to the redacted copy at this point.
That's all right. We'll proceed without the document. I'll put questions to you. If you're disadvantaged because I haven't got the document in front of you, feel free to indicate that you're not able to answer because of that. The first thing to confirm is that at that meeting, the members noted that Mr. Connolly had stepped aside from being a Chief Casino Officer. Do you agree that that occurred?
Yes.
And that members supported the appointment of Mr. Beecroft as the Chief Casino Officer?
On an acting basis?
On an acting basis?
That was my understanding, yes.
And perhaps if we go back to GWC.0003.0001.000, sorry, I'll start again. If we go back to GWC.0002.0016.0349, go to page 7, please. So this is the delegation that was proposed. Was this delegation signed and put into effect? Are you aware if it was signed and put into effect?
Look, my without having the resolution in front of me, right, my recollection is yes. However, I'd need to see the resolution from the minutes of that meeting.
That's something. Yep. Okay. Call up again. GWC.002.0016.0368. Sorry, and go to page 3. Here we go. Can we enlarge page 3? Can we zoom in on page 3, please? There we go. Okay. So I'll just let you read under item 4.
I don't need to delegate the power, so yeah.
Are you aware of that? So there's a resolution that the delegation should be made. Are you aware if it's actually been put into effect?
Well, we agreed during that meeting, we resolved to make that delegation, so my understanding is that yes, it is in effect.
It is in effect. And why was the decision made to delegate to Mr. Beecroft's substantive position of Director of Strategic Regulation rather than to delegate it to Mr. Beecroft himself?
I really don't know. I don't know.
And was there any discussion about whether the delegation to Mr. Beecroft should be a broad general delegation of this kind of all of the powers, or if it should be a narrower delegation of specific powers? Was there any discussion of that?
No, I don't recall that. You know, I recall that as the position of Chief Casino Officer required delegation, and Mr. Beecroft was fulfilling that role, hence the resolution.
And are you aware whether the delegation to the Deputy Director General position has been revoked?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware.
Just on to the last topic. So far as the GWC's oversight of the department services is concerned, for the services that the department provides to the GWC, in your assessment, is the GWC effective in its oversight of the activities that the GWC receives from the department, or the services received from the department by the GWC?
So can you clarify what you mean by effective?
Yes. To what extent are you, as a GWC, able to understand and identify the nature of the services that are being provided by the department to the GWC?
My understanding is from an, I guess, oversight position. As GWC members that meet monthly, we have oversight over the reports that are provided to us by the department, but certainly not going further into auditing veracity or further than that. We did certainly rely on information provided to us by the department.
And do you consider it would be desirable for the GWC to have a greater oversight over the activities the services being provided by the department than it currently does?
My understanding is this is all legislated within the Gaming and Wagering Commission Act, that the department is to provide these services. So we worked within that framework. No, I didn't question further beyond the fact that they were complying with what was required in the GWC Act.
No further questions, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Ms. Seward, any questions?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Ms. Fiorentino, you asked some questions about oversight at that point, and I'd like to start there. Is it fair to say that the way that the department and the GWC interacted the most was during the monthly meetings?
Yes, certainly there was a requirement to interact every month during the GWC meetings, correct?
And during those GWC meetings, the agenda papers would have been prepared for you to review, and those agenda papers were prepared by the departmental officers responsible for the particular topics or areas.
Yes.
And during those meetings, the Commission then discussed whatever the resolution or paper was that was put before you.
Yes, correct.
And if the Commission members had any questions for the departmental officers, they could be asked to those officers. You could ask those questions during the meeting to any of the officers that were present.
Correct.
And if they had an answer, they could give it to you during that meeting.
Yes, if they had an answer, yes.
And if they didn't have an answer, they would take it away and it would come back at a later meeting with an updated paper.
Correct.
And to the extent the various papers put forward required a decision to be made by the Commission on that day, as opposed to simply noting. So to the extent you're required to make a decision, the Commission would then debate amongst themselves what they should do about that proposal.
Yes.
It wasn't a case that the Commission thought they had to do whatever the department had recommended, was it?
That was certainly not the case.
And to the extent during any of those meetings, you or any other commissioners had particular things you wanted the departmental officers to do, you would raise those and request that those things be done by the department.
Yes.
And the KPIs is one such example you've given in your statement, that you requested there be a complete review of the KPIs
Yes.
for the Commission. You were taken to a number of documents about those KPIs, some minutes. I don't need to take you to them again. But is it the case that come the end of 2019, you had reached the point that the Auditor General's issue had been addressed, but you still wanted the broader review of the KPIs to be undertaken?
Yes, I did.
And then you were taken to some minutes from September 2020, where Mr. Connolly advised the Commission that a broader review was going to take place of the structuring of the relevant part of the department that assisted the GWC. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as part of that review, and it would deal with reporting structures and also the KPIs.
Correct.
Is it fair to say that between the end of 2019, when you dealt with that first issue, and that updated report in September 2020, the department had experienced the difficulties of needing to deal with COVID-19 during that period of time.
Yes,
And that
correct.
has certainly impacted on the ability of the department to carry out those bigger, broader reviews that had been planned prior to COVID-19.
Yes. Having said that, can I just add, I did raise the KPI concerns during my meeting in August 2018.
Yes, so that's when it first started.
Yes, correct.
And then you were taken to the end of the December position. Correct. And that's where we had reached, and then we wanted the broader review again. At that point, you raised it again.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. In addition to considering matters during the GWC meetings, is it the case that the agenda papers also contain reports for the Commission to note about the activities that the departmental officers have been carrying out on behalf of the Commission during the previous month?
Can you give an example what you mean?
So there'll be a report that summarises the various audits and inspections that the inspectors have been undertaking.
Yes, correct.
And there's usually some standing items about, in relation to the casino at least, a summary of the casino gaming action during the previous month,
Yes, correct.
and a summary of different gambling statistics during that period of time as well.
Yes, particularly regarding social responsible service of gambling. Yes, correct.
And I should add, at this point, it's correct, isn't it, that the Perth Casino is merely one part of the work of the GWC?
It is one part, yes, correct, within our
Broader.
duties and responsibilities, correct.
And so the departmental officers are providing you with updates on all those other activities that they do each month as well.
Correct.
And in terms of the general workload of the GWC, is it fair to say that since about 2019, the workload has been increasing?
Certainly the workload since early 2019, I have noticed definitely an increase.
And some of that increase has been concerned with the casino and the various media reports that came out about Crown activities in China happened
Yes.
in 2019, and then we led into the Bergen inquiry that came from that.
Yes.
Was the privatisation of the TAB also an issue that occupied a lot of time?
It was certainly a matter that required more time than usual from GWC members during the meetings. Yes, yes.
And in addition to those matters requiring more work from the GWC, correspondingly, they required more work from the departmental officers.
Yes.
Now, you were taken to a document, I can have it brought up please, GWC.0002.0016.0274. At page 73, please. And that's 73. Now, these were some notes you took when you went to the Australian Casino and Gaming Regulators Conference in 2019,
Yes, correct.
and you were taken to several parts of this document. One of the notes you made was about disruptors, Airbnb, online dating, Uber Eats, etc. Just wanted to understand, were your notes about disruptors about the effect of online activities disrupting
So
other
this,
activities?
these again, I'll mention these are notes I took from the presentation, so they're not my questions or my notes, or they are my notes, my summary notes. But my understanding was all these online disruptors, yes, are having an impact on casino operations and revenue. Yes.
And generally speaking, was the Commission around this time and going forward concerned about the effects of online gambling generally?
It wasn't raised during GWC meetings, no, I don't
Is there
recall.
a concern about, from a social responsibility and responsible gambling, any concerns about online gaming?
I can speak for myself as a member. Yes, I was concerned about that. Yes, absolutely.
Were there any discussions in the GWC meetings then about the extent to which online gambling would affect the casino, or was the concern more about socially responsible gambling?
The concern, my understanding and my concern was about online gambling generally, and particularly the targeting of minors. Yes.
And it's easier to monitor the effect of gambling on minors and other social issues in a physical environment like the casino than it is in an online environment.
Absolutely, yes.
No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Seawood. Yes, Mr. Malone.
Commissioner, Ms. Fiorentino, if I could take you to page 11 of your witness statement, paragraph 37. Just got that in front of you. That paragraph has 3 sentences in it. I'd like you to look at the last one, which starts with, as a consequence of the department's increasing workload. That sentence finishes with the words, the mental health and wellbeing of key department staff. Do you include in the phrase key department staff Mr. Connolly?
Yes, I do.
Thank
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Garris.
No questions. Thank you, Commissioner.
No, thank you. Ms. Fiorentino, I might fill in the remaining time till 1 o'clock with a few questions that I have arising from your evidence. You said that you thought that it would be appropriate for the GWC to have an independent chair. Can I ask you then what your view is about what role, if any, departmental officers should play in the GWC? Should there remain, or should the Director General, for example, remain a member of the GWC? Or do you think there should not be a departmental representative on the GWC itself?
So my personal views on this,
Yes, I'm asking for those.
okay, are that there needs to be complete separation, that the GWC needs to be an independent regulatory body with an independent chair, and there is no necessity for departmental staff being on the GWC except if they were providing reports, but the ideal would be that the GWC would be resourced itself to provide the services required to oversight gambling and gaming within WA.
Do you think it would be an advantage or not for there to be a representative of WA Police on the GWC?
It all depends. The future of regulation of gambling in WA, but my perspective is it would definitely be an advantage to have that skill set on the GWC, yes.
Thank you for that. Turning then to the question of delegations. Once you were appointed to the GWC, did you become aware that Mr. Connolly had a delegation similar to the one that was given to Mr. Beecroft in respect of all of the GWC's powers?
Yes, that became apparent to me in my time as a member, yes.
And did you understand that those delegations were exclusive, that delegation was exclusive? That is because he had the was delegated that power, the GWC couldn't exercise its powers, or did you understand that the powers were concurrent still?
The latter, concurrent, that was my understanding.
Did you gain an understanding that Mr. Connolly approved changes to the casino operations manual by virtue of his delegation?
My understanding, any changes to the casino operations manual had to come to GWC meetings for our approval.
Before those changes were made?
Before those changes were made, absolutely, yes, that's my understanding.
Going on then to another topic, in August of 19, do you recall receiving a presentation from Crown about the allegations that were then had been made in the media?
So August of 2019. I do recall, yes, I do recall a presentation that staff from Crown made. Yes, correct.
And see, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but do you have much of a recollection about that? The way you're answering just causes me to query that.
I can't recall the specific contents of that presentation.
Do you recall that at that time there were media allegations about the integrity of gaming in Crown facilities around Australia?
Yes, I recall, yes, definitely there were those allegations and we as members were concerned about that, yes, yes.
And speaking now for you personally, do you recall, and if you simply don't remember, please tell me, do you recall you personally whether you were comforted by what you were told by Crown or whether you still had those concerns or what the situation was?
There was a level of reassurance from what Crown presented, although it wasn't till the Bergen inquiry that we realised, or I realised, that in fact some of this was ongoing in Crown Perth. So I recall a level of reassurance from Crown's presentation. However, we were awaiting the outcome of the Victorian regulators' report into the review of the casino holder, and that was going to be important for us to understand, well, what has been uncovered by Victoria. Is there a requirement for us in Perth to do a similar review, even though we didn't have it in our legislation? So there was a level of reassurance, but not completely, absolutely not completely, no.
There's one question I wanted to ask you, just about a document that's been produced by the GWC, and it's a letter of the 14th of December 2020 to Mr. Ord as chairman of the GWC from Crown Perth, and it had attached to it a report from Grant Thornton and a report from Initialism about the Riverbank and South Bank accounts. And in those reports, it has lists of, I might have called them bank statements on another occasion, but they look somewhat like bank statements. Do you remember if that letter and its attachments were provided to the GWC?
I don't recall that it was.
Can I then now turn to the question of the disclosure to the GWC by Mr Connolly of his friendship with Mr Murray? Can I just wanted to understand the detail of that. It was a verbal disclosure?
It was, yeah, just a verbal disclosure at the beginning of the meeting because it was a standing item for every meeting at agenda item number 2. So, you know, it was extremely important to disclose any conflicts of interest. So it was discussed. Mr Connolly provided that disclosure verbally. We noted it. My understanding was that Mr Order's chair was already aware of it, and nothing further.
What I wanted to ask was, do you recall how much detail Mr Connolly gave about the friendship? Is that how he described it? First of all, I suppose, do you recall that? Did he describe it as a friendship?
Yes, he did, a friendship with, he mentioned Claude Moret's name, and that it was a friendship and it involved fishing trips.
Did he give any detail as to how long the friendship had been?
No, I wasn't aware how long.
Did he give any detail about the number of times a year or whatever he had contact with Mr Murray outside of the work?
No.
And did he mention anybody else that he had a conflict with, or a perceived conflict or potential conflict with, who worked for Crown?
My recollection, it was just Claude Moret's name that was mentioned during that meeting.
In respect of the issue of regulating who participates in junkets and who operates junkets, have you considered whether the GWC should have memorandums of understanding with the WA Police or with AUSTRAC or with Border Force about the issue of junkets?
So,
I mean, I know they're now prohibited, but so we're really talking either prior to or in the future.
definitely memorandum of understanding for information sharing would have been absolutely helpful. We didn't have that, but yes, that would be helpful in regulating junkets and possible criminal infiltration within that.
The Problem Gambling Support Services Committee, do you understand that this is a committee of the GWC or an independent committee?
I didn't. My understanding is that's an independent committee. It doesn't report to the GWC. I've certainly never had. I don't recall a report from that group to the GWC.
And is a member of the GWC a member of that committee or not?
I don't know.
In respect to providing credit to gamblers, whilst you've been on the GWC, have you been aware that the casino can only do that with the consent of the GWC?
So I don't recall us as a GWC approving amounts that the casino can lend to players. Yeah. Although they do have what's called an escrow account, but my understanding is it's. I'm not sure if that is connected to what you're referring to.
At the moment, I'm just talking about really the regulation of that, and whether you have an opinion as to whether the GWC's regulation of the provision of, regulation of the power of the casino to grant credit was adequate or is adequate. From what you're suggesting, you don't feel you're on top of that topic.
I don't feel I'm on top of it, although my personal opinion is yes, there should be, just purely for being responsible in the service of gambling at the casino, there should be limits placed on the amount that gamblers can use at the casino.
Can I just clarify your evidence in relation to the financial situation and the GWC? Do you feel that the GWC is adequately resourced financially or not?
So can you expand on, in terms of, did we have sufficient staff supporting us?
Yes. Did you have sufficient financial support in order to purchase, if you like, the services of others that you required to discharge your functions?
Well, if I think about the KPI matter, then I would have to answer no, there wasn't adequate support and financial resourcing for us to fulfil our requirements, our requests.
And have you ever considered whether the GWC should go to the government, the state government, to seek extra financial support?
I didn't consider that, no.
Was there a reason for that, or it just didn't cross your mind, or you didn't think it was your role, or?
My understanding, it was fairly clear in the legislation what we had as a GWC in terms of resources from the department through the Gaming and Wagering Commission Act, but it was apparent that was inadequate, so it wasn't something that I raised that we should take it further and actually have an amendment to the legislation, no.
And then finally, in terms of the governance of the GWC, we've heard evidence there's no nominations committee in respect of future appointments. Do you think the GWC should have a nominations committee and a qualifications matrix?
Yes, that is proper, definitely proper governance, that a skills matrix be
Skills
prepared
matrix, yes.
on the board's skills and where the deficits are, and that there is a nominations subcommittee for the appointment of new members. That's ideal proper governance, yes.
Thank you, Ms Fioretini. Those were my questions. I know we've gone over time, but I suggest that we finish Ms Fioretini's evidence now, and then we can start a bit later this afternoon to give everyone time to have their luncheon break. So are there any questions arising from my questions?
No questions from me, Commissioner. All I was going to say is that I expect this afternoon's witness won't take the full allotted time, so starting late won't be an issue.
Good. Now, any questions from Ms Seawood, Mr Malone or Mr Garros arising from my questions? No?
No, thank you, Commissioner.
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Yes, Mr Evans.
Just one, hopefully, if I could, Commissioner. Ms Fiorentino, my learned friend took you to a topic as to whether the Bergen report had caused you to take a different approach to the role of GWC, and in response you pointed out that this commission itself is a response to that, and that you also thought you had a heightened sense of scrutiny of the casino. Can I draw your attention to one other matter which the GWC Commission, which may indicate that heightened sense of scrutiny, and I'm going to find the document. Commissioner, I think it is GWC 000200160349, which should be the minutes of a meeting of the 16th of February 2021. That's not the one. In that case, it may be. It may be 367. Now we have a redacted version.
You have a copy there that you could show?
I have an electronic copy, but I don't have a physical copy of the minutes. I can pass my computer across if that
Yes, why not?
So, let's bring it up. Thank you.
What page, Paul?
I think it's about the third page. It's Resolution 1 of 2021.
Yes, yes,
You recall Resolution 1 of 2021?
correct, yes, I do.
That was a
Could you just read it out for?
It's quite lengthy.
Oh, quite lengthy.
Shall I read it?
If you read the opening paragraph, it'll give you the flavour of what the substance
Yeah,
is.
resolved 1 of 2021 to request the Minister to direct the Commission under Section 21A, subsection 5 of the Casino Control Act 1984 to arrange an inquiry and report on the findings of the inquiry to establish, firstly, the suitability of Crown Perth as an operator in light of the findings of the Bergen report, and it continues on.
Thank you.
Yes. And that is a manifestation of the heightened concerns that the Commission had.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely.
No further questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr Evans. Ms Fioretini, that, as I understand it, completes your substantive evidence. However, because there are two members of the Commission who are sitting in another room this morning hearing other evidence, and they have not had the opportunity to listen to your evidence, I'm not going to excuse you now, because what is going to occur is that, I don't know if you were in the hearing room when I read out the statement this morning, but they will review the transcript or the audio visual of your evidence. They may have a few questions for you, just like I had questions arising out of your evidence. So it is possible that you'll be asked to provide written answers to those questions, or alternatively return for some short evidence. but anyway, we will let you know as soon as possible whether that occurs or is going to occur. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending today and for your assistance in providing your evidence. We do appreciate it. Thank you. And court will now adjourn till 2:15.
All rise.